All right, we have a couple items here. They're all independent items, but they're all kind of in the same location at the AC Caplinger Ballfield complex. First is the current operator who operates the fields at Mitch Park and AC Caplinger. This is currently a 4-year agreement. They're in their second year of operations, and we have an option to renew or not renew each year. The agreement runs on the calendar year, so that they'll finish up in December, and then we're suggesting renewal for January. We worked together with EYSA to make a few amendments to the agreement with the goal of allowing for a more objective evaluation of performance. So just a couple simple things that we tried to add. One is a customer satisfaction survey that we would work on together, put out to all the users, and they're already doing this, but that would give us access to that information to help them know how they're doing and compare that to some of the comments that we get. It can also give us as an owner an idea of things that we can do better too. Also in January, we have it in the agreement that we'll work together to come up with some performance goals. Those will be presented to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and then after the season, we'll get back together and see how that went. So just hopefully an opportunity to take an objective look at how things are going. And then our legal department made just some administrative changes there in the agreement just to change dates and clean things up. This was presented to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and they unanimously recommended approval back in July. I'll jump to the next item and then stop and see if you have any questions. The next one is for master plan services with half in the amount of $62,000. This has been a long worked on project. We've done a lot of studies. We just wrapped up the Victus study, and we're going to take that information and we're going to get it right this time. This agreement covers a series of meetings that they'll hold to develop a concept to renovate and improve the ball fields at AC Caplinger. There's a whole series of meetings listed there. Probably the biggest one is the stakeholder meeting, where we'll have kind of a focus group of different representatives that have a stake in that project. And those are some of the representatives that are on that stakeholder group with staff, with EYSA, Visit Edmond, Park and Rec Advisory Board, the Capital Improvement Projects Advisory Board, and then some citizen participants that are using it. Some other ones include, and this is probably a lesson learned from the first go-round, some early meetings with our engineering department to work out water detention prior to producing a concept. And then also just other meetings that they'll have to develop two concepts. When we receive those concepts, we'll have kind of a public process. So it'll be presented at the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, the CIP Advisory Board, and if council desires to the council to come to an agreement on a concept. Kind of the time frame we're looking at for this process is optimistically 2 to 3 months. We put the end of 2023. It sounds crazy to say, but the end of 3 months puts us at Thanksgiving right now. It's hard to believe right now, but we'll be shooting for that and then take it through the public process. Once we have a master plan, then there'll be another contract for construction design once we have an agreed upon concept. We took this agreement to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board and the CIP Advisory Board. Both boards approved this agreement unanimously. We're excited to move forward on this project. I'll take a pause there to see if there's any questions or comments that I can answer.
I have a question. Is there anything from the other plan that we did that can be used on this plan, so this plan doesn't cost as much?
Yeah, I believe there are things that we can use from the other plan.
And hopefully make it not such a long period of time so we can get this rocking and rolling.
Yeah, we definitely want to move as fast as possible. Just for example, all those meeting groups there, that requires developing lists and identifying who's going to be on there. We have those ready to turn over as soon as this is signed to half, so they can begin setting up those meetings.
And the needs for the park. I know we got to the end and then realized we were missing a few things that were very important. But now we know this, everything's on board, and hopefully as quickly as possible we can get this going. It was very sad to see it have to be denied 2 years ago and redone. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see this happen.
Yeah.
The sooner the better.
And there are elements that'll be used. Some of the geotechnical work can possibly be used. A lot of that it will depend on what comes out of this process right here, what concept we agree upon.
And I understand we'll get the bathrooms and stuff fixed up. And
yes, that's next.
Oh, okay.
And that's going to happen.
That concession stand now too, or is that waiting?
Concession stand and restroom
Together.
are all one, and it'll be together, and that'll be the next presentation.
Oh, I'm
and that's going to
sorry.
happen this winter.
Okay.
So things are going to happen on the ground right away, but this is more related to the fields and the complex itself.
Sorry.
Any other questions before I turn it over?
Brad, real quick, will this master plan provide an estimated cost for
Yes.
each of the master plan concepts?
Correct. That's part of the agreement. Okay. If there's no other questions, I'm going to turn the time over to Ryan Oshner to give you a little presentation on the restroom and concession project.
Okay. Sorry, Ryan, I jumped the gun.
That's all right. I was hoping he's just going to go with it. So, good evening, Ryan Oshner, Director of Community Quality, and want to talk to you about this approval to approve a contract to remodel the restrooms at AC Caplinger. So I want to give you a little bit of information about that and describe what the project is. Here's AC Caplinger Baseball Complex. This is 9th Street, and here's Bryant. The building we're talking about is right here in the center, and it is a combination of a restroom in the south part of that and concession there in the north part of that building. That building was constructed in 2010, so it's not too old, has a lot of life left in it. When it was originally constructed, this metal wasn't here, for example, and this was an open air concept, almost kind of a pavilion. Over time, we found, or it was discovered, that that wasn't satisfactory for a number of reasons, wildlife getting in there and that sort of thing, into both parts of the building. So the goal of this remodel project is to improve the guest experience. Since we know this building's going to stay here, regardless of what else happens with the fields, it's certainly worthy making an investment into this building. So I wanted to walk through some of the details because this is just a detail-oriented project. Here you can see how the restrooms are open, this wall here, and this open space on the other side of that leads to the concession stand. So everything's just really commingled there. One aspect of this project will put a ceiling in here and separate those uses, provide a little bit of help with the climate control, and we'll talk more about in a minute. We're going to double the sink capacity so that between games, when there's significant crowds in the restrooms, everybody can wash their hands, go on with their business. Here you see some lighting on the sides. We're going to add some new lightings as we install the drop-in ceiling. We're going to add some new lightings to improve that look, and so it's not so dim. This is a view inside the concession stand. This is if you're a concession stand worker and looking out. This rolls up, and everything that's outside comes in, and vice versa. So that's going to be addressed by putting some serving windows in there so that is closed off and just has a small opening so you can serve food through and keep in some of that climate-controlled air that we'll be talking about in just a minute. Let's see. This is typical underside of the roof. So just this is if you're in the restroom or the concession looking up, that's the underside of the roof. That's just the bare metal receiving direct sun, a lot of heat coming off of that. This project will provide insulation for temperature control and as a moisture barrier. Here's a floor plan. You can see how the restrooms lay out in the building and the concession stand. This dark shaded area indicates that we'll actually install framing inside this part of the structure to get better climate controlled conditions occurring there, since it's just CMU block, cinder block essentially, which transfers a lot of heat and cool. So that'll be a space for additional insulation. And this is a mechanical plan. So this is just a lot going on here, but just to indicate that there'll be a lot of warm air pumped out of the building and cooler air pumped in. It's not going to be climate controlled to what you may want your home to be, but just something to control the temperature a little bit better. Here, this is up on the roof. We have a lot of areas where it's been tried to seal up over the years, a lot of areas still open. The top side of this roof will also get a barrier for insulation and weather tightness purposes. The outside of the structure will be repainted, and here you happen to see the serving windows that will be installed. This project was recommended for construction by the, I got an extra slide in here. Let me touch on this one, I'll back right up. By the Capital Improvement Project Advisory Board just recently. Staff also recommends approval. And we anticipate construction to be ready to start this fall as soon as the last game is played in the season, and to be ready and completed before the spring season in March. So, if there's any questions, happy to entertain them. That's the presentation.
Council, any questions?
So did we, I know you were going to ask to the full-size changing table. Did we get an answer back from the architect on that?
On this project, I haven't got an answer from the architect on that, if we can accommodate a full-size changing table. I suspect probably not, given the remodel nature of this and the already defined floor plan. We are, however, looking and exploring that option for our new restroom at the splash pad. And also, there's already being plans for one to be included in the restroom that is under design for Hafer Park.
So our new
Further into the
facilities will
park.
have them, but it's just difficult to fit it in with this floor plan.
Yes, but we'll double check with the architect, but I suspect that's going to be our answer on this building. That space would be very limiting on that. Because besides the space for the table themselves, they got to have certain clearances around it.
Embracing.
So, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.